Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Caregiver and Spoonie podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Banderas. Just a quick reminder, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes of the Caregiver and Spoonie podcast. And once again, thank you for all the emails, all the support, all your stories, all the new topics that you guys want me to talk about, and obviously for sharing your stories. I'll be posting them on the actual Facebook page, and as well as the community. So let's get into today's episode, shall we? Now, on today's episode, I wanted to say, stop comparing yourself to others. Especially if you're a Spoonie. That's so bad for you. And even if you're not a Spoonie, if you're a caregiver or you're neither, like I said, this podcast is for everybody. Stop comparing yourself to everybody else. And I know it's hard. It is one of the hardest things that we can ever do because we get bombarded with all these things like pictures of somebody else having something that we want, or something that we might want, or when you're a Spoonie, you have social media, you have other people, other Spoonies that show pretty much get like they're getting better, and they have the same condition as you. So you might be thinking like, okay, so if this person is getting better, how come I can't? And that's bad. You shouldn't be doing that because, for one, you don't know how his or in this case, you don't know how the other person's immune system is responding to whatever treatment. You don't know if they're actually telling the truth, especially on social media, or you don't know what medications they're taking. Like they could be taking some strong medications. They could have done a lot of other things. And one of the things that I saw on Facebook the other day, that's why I'm making this episode, is not on the community, but in a different group where this person was complaining about her illness, which I think it was fibromyalgia. She was complaining about fibromyalgia, saying like, this is unfair, like how painful it was. But then she started complaining about how her sister, who is actually older, doesn't have any problems, and it's more of and this other person, the sister, has more of a hippie or more of a free spirit personality. So she started to comparing herself to her sister. The sister obviously sees everything differently because of the way that she was described, like as free spirit, while the person that is complaining or comparing herself to her own sister is pretty much looking at her sister and being like, what am I doing wrong? How come she's not getting any of this? How come I'm doing this? Is this all in my head? Like so pretty much you can create more problems by comparing yourself to others. That's the thing. And here's another thing that I have seen on especially on Facebook. When people start comparing themselves to other Spoonies, then they start hating on the other Spoonies. Like it creates envy. That's the problem. It creates envy. If you compare yourself to others, it might create envy. And you might be like, oh, but I'm not envious. I don't feel any envy. It's like, but just by starting to compare yourself to another person who is completely different, it has a completely different situation, you might start creating envy. And unfortunately, and I'm going to be very blunt about this, envy is caused by, or is actually created by, insecurity and ignorance. Because like I said, like we don't know what the other person is doing. We don't know if the other person is having better treatments than ours. We don't know if the other person is telling the truth about getting better. So we don't know a lot of things. So we're just going to be envious. We're going to create all this envy out of nothing when we don't know the whole story. That's the thing, is like we like to compare ourselves to other people, but we don't know their whole story. We don't know if they're even happy. Like with as a caregiver, I see this all the time on Facebook, like other caregivers saying like, oh, I have the best life, like look, I just bought a new car and all this stuff. But then at home they're not happy because they have to be a caregiver. They want to have the Facebook life or the social media life, but in real life they're not doing what they're supposed to, which in this case is take care of the Spoonie, which obviously causes so many issues. It spirals all out of control, to be honest. Like it will spiral all of control out of control. So that's why I say this, don't compare yourself to others. That's one of the things that I had learned to do, because it's not easy. Like I said, I I used to do that a lot. And the thing is, another thing that just came onto me is that sometimes we start doing that at a very young age because somebody might have compared us to somebody else. Like, this is why we sometimes we have to think way back, like our childhood, because I remember, like in my case, before I started this recording this show, I asked myself, like, how come I've been comparing myself for so long to other people? And the answer was clear: it's because of my family. And I'm not blaming it all on them, but they're the ones who, in this case, my uncle, when I wasn't doing good in school, he said, like, how come you can't be like this other person? Or how come you can't be like this other person? Or oh, that person is smarter than you. How come? Or, like, he compared me to others. Even though I didn't care, it still made me feel bad. So that actually created this pretty much this habit of comparing myself to others and being like, okay, that person doesn't have, or I don't have what that person has because I didn't go to school, or that person has better health than me because I eat a lot of crap, or crap. That person found true love because that's a nice person and I'm not a nice person, So I've done it. That's why I know that it's bad and what kind of habits it can create. It literally can create the worst habits that you might be seeing, because it can cause depression too. Like, it causes depression because you're gonna be like, oh, that person is gonna be better than me, so I'm not gonna care anymore. So instead of comparing yourself to others without knowing the whole story of their situation, we should be able to ask, like, hey, I see that you have this situation, you're a Spoonie, you're a caregiver, you're facing this, you're facing that. What are you doing to help you? You can always ask. There's nothing wrong with asking for help or asking for advice from somebody that has gone through something similar than you. It's not going to be the same situation. It's going to be similar. And that's what matters the most. The more similar the situation is, the better advice the person can give you. So that's why I like to share my stories, because it's like if somebody has gone through something similar and I tell one of my stories and the person is all like, oh, I faced something similar. It's like, how come he was able to get better? So they might be able to listen. That's pretty much what it is all about. Like, that's how we can help each other, but not by comparing each other. That's the thing. So what we need to stop doing is comparing ourselves to others. One of the things that we need to do is also figure out why we compare ourselves to others. And like I say, especially when you're a Spoonie, because I've seen it with my wife. I've seen it with a lot of people that we know, how they compare themselves to like somebody else that is working. Just because you're not able to work right now, that doesn't mean that you're a bad person. That doesn't mean that you have to be envious of a person that is working, because you're in pain. You are in pain. This is what I tell my wife. You're in pain all day. If you're not able to work, unfortunately, you're just gonna have to stop working until you can get better. But the only way that you can get better is, like, you have to realize what exactly is making you sick. And by comparing yourself to others, you're not going to have the time or the willingness or the willingness to actually look deep inside of you and see what's causing this situation, what's causing all these problems. How come I can't get better? That's what comparing yourself to others is going to do. It's not going to give you the time to take care of yourself either, because what happens on some situations, you compare yourself to another person, the other person is doing better than you, and you guys have fibromyalgia, let's say, you guys have fibromyalgia or lupus or whatever condition you're facing, you know somebody that has the same condition, that other person gets better, you're gonna look at the person and be like, oh, they're doing something that I can't do. Probably it's an expensive treatment. So you're just gonna get depressed, you're gonna get mad because you might not be able to afford that treatment. But you didn't ask to see what the other person did. Instead of asking like, hey, what are you doing different? What if it's just changing the nutrition, saying like, oh, I got tested for all my food allergies and this is what's causing my inflammation or whatever, and once I change my diet, this helped. That's how I'm getting better. Instead of doing that, we compare, we get mad, we get sad, and then we get depressed, and then we feel bad about ourselves. So let's stop that right now. We should be able to stop that. And instead of comparing, don't compare, ask the right questions. Like, hey, you have this, I have the same thing. How come? What exactly are you doing different that to help you? Oh, I take a massage. This kind of massage, and you can be like, okay, I'm gonna try it. It's all about trying, literally. In order for you to get better, you have to try. You have to try to do your own research. You have to try to figure out what's causing the pain, what's causing the inflammation, because by comparing yourself to others, you're not going to figure that out. The doctor is not going to figure it out, unfortunately. They're busy doing other things. And with doctors, unfortunately, especially now with the pandemic, it kind of seems like they're more worried about billing people than helping them. That's exactly how it feels. So sometimes you have to take over. I stop comparing yourself to others, and that's one of the best things that you can do. One of the best things that you can do is stop comparing yourself to others. I know that I keep repeating it, but the thing is that it's so hard not to do it. That's why I have to repeat it so many times, because it took me a long, long time for me to do it. But I had to realize that I was doing it. And a lot of people don't even realize that they're doing it. And I think that's the biggest obstacle, not realizing that we're comparing ourselves to others. Once you realize it, you can say like, okay, how come I'm comparing it? But if you don't even know, it's like they said, it's like that quote says, it's hard for you to escape out of a prison if you don't know you're in a prison. And comparing yourself to another person is literally creating a prison in your mind, because you're gonna feel bad about yourself. So that's one of that's why I wanted to talk about this, because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to compare yourself to others or being compared to, and that's another thing. If somebody compare you to somebody else, kind of like in my case with my uncle and my mom and even my brother, they always compare me to the neighbors or to like other kids that they know because they were smarter or something like that. But you have to understand that was the perception. That's not your perception. You can always change your perception. That's the thing. You can always change your perception. You can always change your thinking. So if you always thought that, okay, my parents or this person who compared me to this other person was right, no, you can change that perception. You can change that thinking and analyze it. Be like, okay, how come I let this person compare me to this? Or how come I felt like that comparison was right? Because it's never right. You're a completely different person than the person that you're comparing to. There's different circumstances. Probably they're even in a different state, different country with better doctors than the ones that you have better treatments. Like, what if they actually doing stem cell injections, which is a thing now, and I heard it helps. That's why I've been researching. So there's so many things that go wrong when you compare yourself, like you're gonna dig yourself into a deeper hole if you do that. So my recommendation, because I tried and it worked for me, is to stop comparing yourself to another person, especially a Spoonie or caregiver, to whoever. Just don't compare yourself to anybody. You are you. The only judge that you should listen to, it's your own judgment. But don't judge yourself in a harsh way. do it as a learning experience. It's like, what can I learn from this, and how can I improve this? So don't judge yourself too harsh. This is one of the things that has helped me so much, especially with the podcast and everything else in life. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. I hope you guys are enjoying the shows, the episodes. We're getting better. We're getting more listeners. I'm getting more emails. Thank you for that. And don't forget to share, like, subscribe. Let's make this community grow as well. You can follow us on Facebook. And I'll leave you with, like always. Oh, and before I say that, if you want to share your story, don't forget to send it to me at thecaregiverandspoonie@gmail.com, or you can post it on our community. And now I'll leave you like always. Always take care of yourself and have a good day.